Good evening and welcome to Atlantic Television Press Roundtable here in the Garden City of Port Harcourt. Press Roundtable is where media professionals gather to look at trending issues in the last 24 hours, give insights and perspectives, look at it from all sides of the story and create balance, bring it to your table so that you understand what actually has been trending in their various platforms. Well, I'm sure you're watching us on our media platforms. They're there on the TV. Let's look at some of the headlines. Tinubu may sacrifice you. Articles 8 once Wike. NSCDC impounds rail tracks worth 800 million naira. Arrest 13 suspects. On a housing deficit data will be resolved soon. Minister. Ogun doctors plan September 1 strike over unpaid allowances. And from Sokoto comes a report that governor swears in commissioners. Coming to our currency, manufacturers' raw material imports hit 8 trillion naira. And from Nigeria Republic, AU plans fresh sanctions. Abdul Salami warns against war. These are some of the interesting headlines. Sorry for coming to you late due to some technical glitches indeed. I'm sure you're watching us on our various platforms. And we've got a short break. When we come back, we'll hit the road running on Press Roundtable, live on Atlantic Television Network. My name is Bon Woke. I'll unveil my key speaker when we come back. Don't go away. Stay tuned. You're welcome back. It's still Atlantic Television Network here in Garden City of Port Harcourt, and joining me is no other than Clement Nebeke. A media professional is here, is always with us here in the studio. Clem is looking so immaculate.
Thank you, sir.
Daniel Bauer, an aide to the presidential candidate of People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, has said that President Bola Tinubu may be forced to sacrifice the Minister of Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, if he goes ahead with his planned demolition of structures in the FCT. And assuming office, you recall, Monday Chief Wike vowed to demolish houses illegally constructed within the nation's capital, no matter whose property will be affected. While reacting to the threat, in a tweet on Monday, charged the minister to learn humility while on his job. He tweeted on X, now that's what Twitter is called now. Hello, sir. In case you need a refresher course, insult. The basic needs of the residents of FCT are affordable healthcare facilities, access to good education facilities, clean sports and recreational centers, and affordable transport services system, efficient and workable street lighting in the city center and the suburbs, and finally, security. It came with a bullish and vendetta spirit, venting fire and brimstone about demolition and revocation of titles. Abuja is not Port Harcourt. It taunted. Well, I think that last word there, taunted, shows that the young man was simply talking out of some level of bitterness. And that language he's using is quite irresponsible of somebody who calls himself a leader and aide to presidential candidate. He could have made those valid positions without using those wrong words. That they need healthcare, they need education, they need clean sporting venues, they need transportation. All this. These are valid.
And security.
These are valid positions. But you don't tell a leader where to start from. When you talk about Abuja, the most important thing that comes to the mind of every Nigerian is the master plan of Abuja being implemented? Why? In 2022, there was a report that there was so much slum in Abuja and that indigenous population in some of the suburbs and satellite towns were selling some of the land illegally. Why wouldn't anybody who want to buy land use the proper approach, go to the land registry and then acquire land legally and ensure that it's acquiring land in the proper way? You know, that threat is quite counterproductive and I would describe it as irresponsible, not because we're talking about my former governor.
Well, not really talking about former governor of Rivers State.
Yes.
Of course, we know Chief Ian Wike as a very proactive and dynamic person when it comes to project implementation and all that, especially implementation of government policies and plans. Now, from what I see so far, I want to see a situation, or I want to say that this man is only trying to distract the new minister. That's what I see. And again, he is talking out of bitterness. I don't know where that is coming from. You know, because you cannot say the president is using you or wants to use you to sacrifice.
Yes.
One. Then two.
He will teach him
that he should go for refresher course.
Exactly.
Then number three, that Abuja is not Port Harcourt. Abuja is not Port Harcourt, and then you see cow on the streets of Abuja, which is not supposed to be so. Now, we are also aware of flooding in some part of Abuja, FCT, which is also not supposed to be so. The reason is because people don't follow laid down plans, you know, how Abuja was planned originally. People are not following it again. You see, they build houses on drains, build houses all around, and that is causing a whole lot of flood. I watched a program, an interview of somebody, the permanent secretary of Federal Capital Territory, before this administration came in. The man was lamenting about how people are selling land illegally, and the way people are building also are part of the reasons why we have flooding in some part of Abuja. You remember how many persons lost their life because of even property, some estates, you know, were submerged and all that. So if Chief Ian Wike has come and he's being sworn in, given the portfolio to be the FCT minister, it means that they recognize that he is a no-nonsense person and that he is going to, of course, implement the master plan
as well. And you require political will to do
and what if he has that political backing from the president, why not? Because probably what they don't understand is that Abuja is not like every other state where you can mess up anyhow. In fact, I hear that some cameras in Abuja now on the streets of they are not working, you know. These are some of the things that, but of course, it has to start from somewhere. I hear also that the former governor is also tackling rickety vehicles. You know, these are things to do to ensure that there is sanity. Abuja is the federal capital territory, for crying out loud. So I don't know why he wants to bring this distraction. But I know that Chief Ian Wike is not somebody you can distract.
No, and then I think that he was talking with some level of intimidation without knowing the person he was talking with. Somebody who held your master stand still, you know, and battled his master at Atiku. And over time, I'm sure, without joining words with them, some of the language there are very, very awful.
It's true.
That's not the kind of language a politician should use. And a statesman. Even Atiku would not use those words.
Atiku would not use it because he's
Atiku
a
is a gentleman.
And he's just a media aide.
Exactly. Atiku is a gentleman. He will not use those words. Let me teach you humility. You are being bullish and all that. That's, you know, gives an impression of somebody who is bitter. And you cannot tell a man, as a media person, I'm not sure he's a trained journalist.
He may not be a trained
journalist. He may not be a trained, because if he were, there would have been a way to tell Governor Wike, no, sir, your approach is not the best approach. You are starting with infrastructural renewal. There are more useful things that will impact more on the people. Let's start with education. That's your choice. But I know that Governor Wike is known for his infrastructural renewal of Port Harcourt.
That's the truth.
Urban renewal. And it was one of the reasons why he was given that portfolio.
I think
because
so.
Abuja was in dire need of a leader with political will to change the narrative. People are dying. People are building on water right of way. Insecurity is rife because of some behavioral patterns. People doing things anyhow. Urban logistics is almost zero. And that is the federal capital territory, the eye of the country. Cattle, roaming the streets, rickety cars all over the place, criminals looming large, and all that. And a man comes and says, no, some of your behavioral patterns encourage criminality.
It's true.
Some of your behavioral patterns encourage flooding, encourage a lot of illegality, uncompleted buildings where these people hide and all that. We are going to check all this and put the city in the right pedestal. And somebody is busy, rather than congratulate him and then tell him what he should do. Because all the ministers are talking, and we see some of them. And people are telling them, look, we are going to lay an agenda for you. This is what you should be doing. This is what you should be doing, with very, very decent language. But this one came with antagonistic disposition and foul language. Something that is not expected of any media professional.
No, he's not a trained journalist.
Yes. And not to talk about somebody who is an aide to a presidential candidate. That the article is known to be a very humane person.
He is.
He doesn't use foul language.
Yes.
And so for him to have that kind of loquacious and garrulous aid is unfortunate. Now let's look at this story. There is Civil Defense Corps. NSCDC impounds rail tracks worth 800 million naira. Arrest 13 suspects. Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps have arrested 13 suspected railway vandals with large quantities of long rails and sleepers worth millions of naira. According to a statement signed by the Corps spokesman, Babawale Afolabi, the suspects were arrested by the Commandant General Special Intelligence Squad. The suspects were paraded alongside 5 trucks conveying the large quantities of vandalized rails, unfortunately, and sleepers at the NCSDC headquarters Abuja Tuesday. Afolabi said that the arrests took place around the Manhawk area of Kaura LGA, the Zonkwai area in Zango Kataf LGA, and the Kafanchan area in Jema local government of Kaduna State. They were arrested outside Abuja, and they were arrested in Kaduna. Look at the lorry loads of rail tracks that were removed. It's unfortunate. And look at the price. And we're talking about vandalism.
800 million.
Yes, and that's part of what Governor Wike was talking about. And which person with normal sense would not clap for the governor in recognizing that there is this kind of problem? People removing manholes, moving rail handles, removing railway tracks, and all that. That's part of what the governor was saying.
Now,
and the governor said they should be treated like armed robbers.
They are, of course, they are.
The minister.
Criminals. Now, the first question that will come to my mind is that now when they remove these things, where do they take it to?
You can see
Who are the buyers?
You can see them loading it to Kaduna, and from there to Kano.
Zangon Kataf.
It's in Kaduna State.
Yes. Who are the buyers? Are they not Nigerians? They are Nigerians. Are these people not aware that monies used for this project were monies borrowed from China and all that? And of course, if it is a loan, we have to pay back. And paying back means that those rail lines must be there. And for it to be there, it means that then we should expect that we will also generate revenue from the train services. Now, if you remove the rail tracks, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to deny the country of revenue that will be generated in order to pay back the loans collected from foreign partners? These are some of the problems we have. And now, if the new FCT minister has recognized this and is saying that this kind of thing should stop, somebody will come to say that. But again, let me not digress. Now, we are supposed to have, in the blueprint of the new rail line, we are supposed to have a surveillance. Cameras, and of course, those that will also be drones and all that. Those were all part of it. Why are we not having, or is it that part of the recommendations hasn't been implemented? These are some of the questions, or maybe it is designed in such a way that this kind of attitude or act can be carried out. These are some of the questions we should be asking ourselves, because things like this are non-patriotic. And we are not supposed to clap for them. These are people that should rot in jail.
And that's why the minister should be encouraged. Because the way we look at it, he said Civil Defense Corps should treat them like armed robbers.
They are, of course.
Yes, because they're armed, of course. To remove those stuff, you'll be armed. So in all ramifications, they shouldn't just be treated like ordinary criminals.
And not just them, even the buyers.
The buyers.
Because the buyers are Nigerians. Now, the other time we had about truckloads of this same rail from Ondo State, yes, that they were taken to Cross River states. Now, if you have those who are their activities, excuse me, is to remove this rail track, it means that they have buyers, and those buyers should be also treated the same way.
I think that when you look at the way Nigerians, scraps, every scrap means a lot. Yes, we are going to do recycling, we're doing industrialization, factories are using scraps and all that. It will not be to the detriment of urban infrastructure, the ones that are already there. Mm-hmm. When they come to River State and pick scraps from dumps, and have lorry loads of trailers and all that scraps to the north, we understand these are scraps, and you're talking about wealth. Waste to wealth.
To wealth.
But when you talk about stealing already installed facilities, it becomes some kind of level of madness, and our quest for industrialization wouldn't make sense in that ramification.
Of course.
Doesn't make sense. Let's take this story and see whether we can go for a water break and come back. The Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Dangiwa, on Tuesday pledged to resolve concerns about data on the number of homeless persons in the country in the coming months. The minister also vowed to champion land administration and institutional reforms to create an enabling environment for housing delivery and job creation. Addressing top ministry officials and heads of agencies, his office at a press conference held at the ministry headquarters in Abuja, Dangiwa understood the important role of housing data in ensuring all Nigerians have access to decent, quality, and affordable housing while fostering live and livable communities. As part of his priorities, he also promised to get accurate data on the housing deficit in the country, saying it does not agree with the current numbers bandied about. Speaking further at the press conference, the former managing director of the Federal Mortgage Bank, Nigeria, said there were numerous challenges in the sector that were determined to turn them into opportunities whereby jobs will be created and inclusive growth will be enhanced. Very interesting narrative. All the ministers are doing the same thing. They are giving directives, they are reviewing, they are dropping their program on the table, they are setting an agenda. I don't know why Wike's own became a problem. Well, I think that the former director of FMB, Federal Mortgage Bank, is talking about redressing the housing deficit in the country. I would have asked a question.
Okay.
How much of that did he do when he was
when he was the MD of Federal Mortgage Bank?
Because when we were civil servants,
yes, we
participated in the housing contribution. And at the end of the day, we are refunded pittance. The kind of scheme that we expected that will help civil servants own their own houses, the working class own their own houses in Port Harcourt, in Rivers State, was never feasible. We're only hearing that story in distant places. I don't know whether some parts of the country are also not part of the places that have this humongous housing deficit. I think that let's hope that he is waking up now and is going to bring some strong policies in place.
Let me add a voice to that.
Yes.
Well, I want to say that he is fully aware of what he's talking about.
Yes.
He has full knowledge of what he's saying.
He doesn't agree with the data, and I like that because
no, he doesn't agree
some of the
with
data
the data
they bandy about in Nigeria are wrong.
Yes. This is the same thing that Fashola told us that he will do, and along the line, maybe political will, or he failed, or maybe there are challenges, just like what he has also said now, the new minister has said, that of course there has been challenges, which of course he's going to address. But let me come from the angle of the MD of the Federal Mortgage Bank.
That's what he is. That's what he was.
Yes. I know that, as a former union chairman in the States, I have an idea of how a lot of things work when it comes to things that affect civil servants.
So we didn't cooperate with them, is that what you said?
No, it is not that we did not cooperate with them. Well, I would not want to go into that fully, but I want to say that the reason why they refunded the money is because we were not forthcoming. That's why they refunded money to civil servants who retired. All that we were supposed to have accessed some amount of money in millions, for you to be able to. And so that is the essence of that contribution you were doing.
Exactly.
But because you were unable, maybe because of certain government policies in Rivers State that could not address or was unable to also incorporate that into the civil service
yes, because they
routine.
Said, I think that I spoke with one of them who said Rivers State government did not cooperate with them.
Well, I did not want
I
did not want to go into all that, but as a union chairman, a former union chairman, I know about all this, the things that happened that denied civil servants of housing funds in Rivers State.
Well,
so coming from that angle now, this man is already aware of what is happening. In fact, the reason why he's arguing with the database is because he has a clear picture of what is happening in all the states, including the FCT. And so I believe that he will address it.
Okay.
He will address it properly.
Yes, I think that what is happening there is that I share his opinion that some of the data we bandy about are not correct. They have housing deficit in Nigeria is far more than what he's saying.
That's correct.
Because a lot of people cluster at home. In a house, you may have about 10-15 persons that are supposed to own their own houses.
That's true.
They are clustered.
That's true.
So when you say, give some figures about housing deficit, you're wrong. That was how the social register too was being bandied about by the last administration. And the present administration said that social register is wrong.
It's wrong.
So I think that let's look at what the ministers are doing. And I like their enthusiasm. I've listened to some of their agenda. They seem to be wanting to hit the ground running.
It's true.
They're enthusiastic about changing the narrative. And let's see how it goes. We'll go on a 2 minutes break. And when we come back, we continue. Don't get away.
recorded, even if it is not somebody that is close to them or not their relatives. Of course, it is going to set a bad precedence and record for the state. And as a sitting governor, you sit down and allow the enemy to go on strike without addressing an issue like this. Hazard allowance, maybe they are not aware of what this hazard allowance is all about. So I believe that it is high time that we start to address the issue of those we vote into power, because we are not holding them accountable. That's why we're having some of these things. Somebody who is knowledgeable about the effects of a whole health sector going on strike will understand that if I'm going to ask for vote to be the governor of a state, then I should know what to do to avert all these kind of issues.
I think that you're right. They handle civil servants matters, the problems bedeviling and indeed plaguing civil service, especially professionals with some kid gloves. Now look at it generally. Talking about hazard allowance, you know what doctors go through? Sometimes those of us who are not doctors begin to wonder whether they are human beings. And a doctor friend was telling me how this pricking of needle pricking can, infect you with hepatitis, can infect you with HIV/AIDS, and other dangerous diseases. And that a doctor even told me that he had been pricked twice with a needle from an HIV patient, and he had to take the preventive drug immediately. There are some of the hazards, and some of them work very late at night, go home very late, call aloud. They have issue of call. Even the doctors are told it's on call. And they have some of these challenges. Sometimes people say, well, the problem is that doctors also have their private clinics. The resident doctors, for example, are not buoyant enough to have.
No, they can't have. So they can't own their own clinic.
So you don't generalize it. If you are thinking that, well, the consultant, the big men run their own clinics and all that, what about the rest? Give them what is due them. Because these people spend a lot of years in the university. Some people may say, are they the only professionals? But they are professionals that deal with life.
They are not the only professional, and that is why you see, instead of stressing the federal government, they have started leaving the country. Exactly. And now the government is angry with that exodus, that why should they be leaving? Then they should serve 5 years. 5 years before you can leave to anywhere.
It is that bill didn't see the light of day.
Now, 5 years. These are some of the things.
That will tell you the mentality of government.
That is what I want. That's what I want to say. Yes. How can you say somebody will have to serve 5 years? Somebody you didn't pay his school fees, you didn't generate power for him, nothing about him that you did not even contribute to the success of the person. Now you want him to serve 5 years before he can leave. Sign undertaking that he cannot leave except he has served the government.
They are slaves.
5 years.
What about other professionals? Why don't you bond other professionals?
Now you see, we sometimes we vote people into power without recognizing the fact that these people are not fit to be there. These are some of the reasons why we have issues like this.
Exactly. Now we have inaugurated ministers. The Minister of Health, they have the Minister of Humanitarian and Poverty Alleviation, and different kinds of. I had her Beta Edu. So she was saying she was going to address the government was going to address the poverty of more than 130 or 140 million Nigerians within 4 years. I know that she's speaking for the entire government, not for our ministry.
No, not for our ministry.
Because definitely our ministry doesn't have that singular capacity. Because poverty alleviation has to do with the holistic.
Even the federal government cannot address that in 4 years.
In 4 years. But they have to start somewhere.
They will have to start somewhere.
So I like the fact that the ministers are talking and saying what they want to do. In the same vein, in various states, there were stories that we didn't handle where they are inaugurating commissioners and all that. When you are inaugurated as a minister, as a commissioner, you should add value to what already there is in existence. Because if you make me a governor, make me a head of station or whatever, I should be thinking of what I should do differently.
That's correct.
And that should be at the back of my mind. And that is what every leader, does. You have your middle short-term plan, middle-level plan, and long-term plan. And that was the language we can use in Abuja. So you mustn't do what everybody is doing. And somebody in the ministry will tell you that, oh God, that's how I've been doing it. That's rubbish.
No, that is not.
You must start something new. And
you must have your blueprint before, of course.
And you must add value. Yes. And like Jesus said, that he didn't come to change the law, but to fulfill the law.
To fulfill it.
So whatever template there is on ground, as a leader, you're able to look at it, interpret it, and give legs and feet to it to run and to become much more useful. A value addition is important in leadership. You cannot add value whatever there is in existence, then you are wrong. Well, thank you very much. That's much we can take. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you, sir.
And thank you out there for being there for us, because I'm sure you're watching us live on all the social media platforms. And tomorrow is another date, because ATN Press Roundtable comes to you Monday to Friday. Don't worry. By 9 o'clock, we shall come to you live with our global bulletin. That's the last bulletin for the day. And don't forget, make peace your watchword, because peace and unity are the pathways to progress. My name is Bon Woke. Stay tuned for other programs. Don't go away.